Hello and welcome to the Regulation Asia Awards for Excellence video series. My name is Manesh Samtani. I'm editor at Regulation Asia. Back in December, we hosted our 2020 awards ceremony, and in one of our highest profile categories, AML CTF compliance, the winner for best solution was Napier, for what one of our judges called a new gold standard for AML solutions. So today, I'm delighted to welcome three of Napier's key executives to help us understand more about the company and how it's been achieving success in helping to bolster financial industry efforts to combat crime. First, we have Luca Primerano, Napier's Chief Strategy Officer, who will be able to talk to us about the company's strategy, as well as key technology elements that drive performance. Welcome, Luca.
Hi, everybody, and thanks.
Next, we have Greg Watson, who is Chief Operating Officer at Napier and whose passion is around client lifecycle management and perpetual KYC. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, Manesh. Thanks for hosting.
And finally, we have Robin Lee, Head of APAC for Napier, who can talk to us about some of the initiatives the company has in APAC as well as future plans. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, Manesh. Thanks for having us, and it's great to be here.
You're welcome. So I guess first off, congratulations to all of you once again on last year's award. I'd like to kick off maybe by asking Robin to set the scene by maybe talking about some of the more notable financial crime risks and trends you've seen this year, focusing on APAC.
I guess the elephant in the room is COVID. And as a result of COVID, you have COVID-related fin crime. So this includes financial crimes that involve, on one hand sanitizers. We see an increase in phone scams and also like cyber-related crimes as well. I'd say a second trend that we've seen is definitely a refocus on counterterrorism financing, especially with everything that's happening in Afghanistan as of late. And last but not least, I would say that we are seeing the intersection of ESG with financial crime, with the emergence of green crime, or more of a focus on green crime. It's actually been around for a while, but specifically I'm talking about wildlife trafficking, forestry crime, and pollution crime.
Thanks, Robin. What have you seen has been the main response from APAC regulators so far, given these risks?
I mean, we've seen a strengthening of regulations across the region, especially in light of FATF standards, continuously updating, shall we say. I would say another theme would be the embrace of technology. Specifically, I guess, if you look at HKMA, they've put out a lot of RegTech papers as of late. MAS has even gone to the extent of offering a RegTech grant. And of course, taking it back up to the Financial Action Task Force, a new technologies paper was released recently as well.
Thank you, Robin. I'd like to shift to Greg for a minute. Greg, KYC, I think, seems to continue to cause issues for financial services firms. I'd like to hear your view of the challenges. What do you think is the way forward to changing this dynamic?
I mean, I think at the moment there is quite a difference between retail and wholesale KYC, and KYC at both an onboarding of new customers and right through to a maintenance thereof. And I think COVID has accelerated, particularly in Asia, I think, and relevant to the Asian market, has accelerated digitization, as you'll well appreciate. And that's moved a number of organizations, financial services organizations, who were probably quite stuck in the past about physical presence into much more of a remote virtual experience, which I do think has helped the KYC friction, and that friction is still quite intense. So I would expect that, again, that divide is increasing between the retail experience, your Apple type experience, which is all pretty seamless and quick, to something in the wholesale side of business, which is more complex, when there is much more intricate entity structures where there's still an enormous amount of friction. And I think the problem that you have now is, even though the technology exists to solve for some of this, it's still pretty laborious. And so I think the challenge is, how do you take out the manual nature of KYC and make it much more automated? So I think the way forward on this is to move to much more straight through processing and humans by exception. And actually, something that Luca is very passionate about, I think this is where machine learning can actually aid in that to take out some of that friction.
Could you talk to us a bit about how Napier specifically is helping clients, and I guess the industry at large, solve some of these challenges?
We believe that there is a huge amount of noise in the system. We believe the first wave of technology has been, relatively successful, but as I've just said, that it's created a very manual effort and huge amounts of people and also a lot of error, which results in challenges in terms of the risk framework, but also that the client experience is still pretty clunky. So what we would aspire to be able to provide to the industry is something that takes out a lot of that manual work. And if you can imagine a pyramid, we believe that maybe 80% of that pyramid would be classed as noise in the system, which we think we can automate out. So we're looking at solutions and bringing to market solutions that enable a framework to exist that effectively hoovers up data around the entity, changes in entity and changes in transactional behavior that can then manage that in a way that allows effectively the nirvana state of perpetual KYC to exist. So we really like this concept of always listening rather than only listening once every 5 years or 3 years, to move to something that's much more real-time in nature. So our solution, Client Activity Review, which we have in the market now, is very much enabling organizations to integrate that on top of existing technology in order to provide a framework to get to that state of an always listening, real-time type KYC infrastructure.
Luca, could you talk a little bit about how Napier is using technology to enhance transaction monitoring for the industry?
First of all, Napier's vision is around simplicity, making things simple for our clients, analysts, and the anti-money laundering community. To do so, we have developed multiple components of our transaction monitoring platform, which enables analysts, change management individuals, MLRO, to change their scenarios, their patterns, as new threats occur in the markets. If you think about criminals, always change their behaviors and their patterns. So what we need to make sure of for the society and for our clients is making sure we give them the tools so that they can adjust their scenarios, their rules, their patterns matching based on these new threats. And another component we have developed as part of our transaction monitoring system is machine learning, which basically allow our customers to detect threats using algorithms and supervised and unsupervised learning to detect combinations of unusual behaviors. So if you think about it, it's not just about implementing technology per se, it's about adapting the technology to what the user needs to achieve their mission, which is the reduction of false positives, i.e. making sure that we have a system which is smart enough to allow customers to tweak their scenarios and at the same time implementing technology to spot new threats and new behaviors as they occur.
I do understand that the Napier platform has a few different components. I wonder if maybe you want to tell us a bit about some of those different parts of the Napier platform, how they make the technology platform unique.
So first of all, Napier has a set of products that we built, design, and that cover the anti-money laundering lifecycle, including transaction monitoring, risk-based scorecard, transaction screening, client screening, and the last one, which Greg mentioned, which is client activity review. All of these products coexist in our ecosystem of applications, which allow users to manage their processes and risk within their compliance area within the same platform. So if you think about it, instead of having multiple silos, multiple verticals, our clients can use a solution which combines different processes in the same space. And these solutions all implements, sandbox for rule configuration, machine learning, and so on. Our latest solution, Client Activity Review, has been designed to fill a gap we've seen in the market around the lack of communication between KYC systems and transaction monitoring systems. So when you go and review a customer, because from a regulatory standpoint, you need to review customers on a recurring basis, then you can finally make sure that what the customer said they would do actually match their transactional behavior and detect anomalies so that you can potentially change your customer risk or perform in-depth investigation. And all of this is enabled by our platform, which combines traditional analytical-based rules and scenario with more advanced machine learning.
Robin, what have you seen in terms of adoption of the platform in Asia Pacific? What kind of institutions have you been focused on? What kind of results are clients telling you that they see?
To add to what Luca was saying, the best analogy I can think of when it comes to our solution, it's kind of like your phone, right? Like our iOS or Android, and Form has different apps that sit on it, like the modules Luca mentioned, client activity review, transaction monitoring, client screening. So in terms of adoption, here at Napier, we have customers right across the board. Everything from, as far as the financial industry is concerned, your fintech startups, right through to tier 1 banks. We also have corporates who are using our solutions for third-party risk. And so where the focus has been, I would say, is predominantly driven by those regulatory requirements that I mentioned earlier, with strong representation from Australia, Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. Clients are really embracing this digital approach from an operational perspective. One example I can share is we have a corporate that's using us from a third-party risk perspective. They've got 10 million business partners that they have to screen on a regular basis. And using the power of technology and Napier, they were able to reduce false positives, time, and cost by 90% in the space of 3 months. The other example I can share is this concept of holistic AML and what Greg was talking about earlier with perpetual KYC, whereby a tier 1 bank was basically opening up a whole bunch of different separate apps. And as a result of having these, there was 5 of them, right? And 5 of these different apps, each one has its own case management system, each one has its own reporting system, and they had to do this manually. So it averaged about, I think, 12 hours or so for each customer report to be generated. And so bringing in client activity review, they were able to feed those different bits of systems data into our platform. That the platform that we put together isn't just a software platform, it's a data platform as well. So this is really exciting for us here at Napier, because for the first time, financial crime team get their own data set that they can play about with. And like I said, this is unprecedented. And so as a result of leveraging client activity review, it enabled them to do 3 things. Number 1, they were able to do those client 360 reviews, automate that. So rather than take 12 hours, it's there, it's done, right? Because the data is all being fed into the platform. Number 2, they were able to generate insights leveraging the AI platform that a human necessarily wouldn't be able to pick up. And just a little thing about those insights, Manesh, I mean, the challenge that compliance, AML, and financial crime teams have is they've always been viewed as a cost center, business prevention, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now with client activity review and with those insights being able to be generated, some of them are actual leads for new lines of business. This is the holy grail for anyone who's worked in this space for the past 10, 15 years, to be able to actually contribute to the business and be a revenue generator. It's astounding. And last but not least was what Craig was speaking earlier to, this concept of perpetual KYC, where we're always listening. And so if I was to take the example of Manesh, who's traditionally a low risk customer, so we only look at his file, every 5 years, as opposed to 3 years for the medium risk or 1 year for the high risk. And then suddenly something drastically changes with Manesh. I don't know, maybe he marries a princess and that is now politically exposed, or suddenly does some super large transactions that he normally wouldn't do. The system will automatically flag that and say, hey, instead of waiting for those 5 years to look at Manesh's file, you might want to do that sooner. And so this customer has also seen some astounding results because of that. The other thing that I want to touch on is there's this term that's been flying around the software industry for a while called customer success. We are front and center focused on this. It's a very, very important aspect to our organization. And this concept of customer success is measured by what we call an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score. And what that is, you can think of it as like a grade out of 10 that's given once a quarter. And what we've done at Napier is we've actually put in performance metrics that are aligned to that customer success score. So should we see a decline 2 quarters in a row of that customer success number, we get dinged on it. And I'm not just talking about the customer success manager themselves. I'm talking everyone right through to our CEO within the organization. Steve Jobs said that you've got to start with the customer first and work backwards. And that's something that I truly believe that we practice here at Napier.
Question for Greg and Luca. From a technology perspective, Greg, what is your vision for the next 12 to 18 months or so with the Napier platform?
Well, I think it's all about this always listening type concept. So intelligent compliance platform to me really is something that's pretty flexible. And I think this is where some vendors, I think, get it wrong. So if you go into a smaller organization, they don't really understand necessarily the nuances of having multiple systems. And so I think what we would like to provide with our platform is the ability to onboard customers, to onboard products for those customers, to maintain those customers throughout a due diligence cycle, being real time, being exception based as much as possible, and then to offboard those customers if required, or close products where required, but all in one platform. And so having the ability to be modular, having the ability to scale in and out of it, but something that I think would be very much a backbone for organizations. So they may have a front office CRM like a Salesforce. We would like to be the back and middle office backbone of an organization. And hopefully those two applications can exist in harmony and talk to each other. But that's where I think our vision is going forward. Maybe Luca can add to that.
The kind of areas within our roadmaps are split into functional areas as we improve the functionalities of our applications to make sure that there is further integration between data sources and processes. We're going to be focusing on workflow whereby users is proposed the next best thing based on the data that the system has collected to make things faster, more efficient, and more effective for our analysts. And on the other side, we have a set of technologies development that combines, for example, natural language processing to process unstructured data and the ability to sift through a significant amount of this unstructured information to give more data to the analyst. And at the same time, the ability to integrate all of the machine learning models that the users are deploying in a dynamic way so that the models are optimized to improve the outcome for the end user using, for example, active learning to make sure that the machine learns the best outcome based on the historical review. So if you look in the next 24 months, what you will see is an increased integration within our ecosystem, bringing in more data from the KYC world. And at the same time, you will see several additional what we call widgets that are developed using machine learning that help users solve specific problems, such as false positives within screenings, or such as the ability to combine multiple results from multiple investigations, and so on.
So I hear increased integration, more data, and more problem solving. Those all sound like great things, and I look forward to hearing more about. And with that, we are out of time. I do want to thank you, Luca, Greg, and Robin, for joining me today and sharing some of your work with us. Of course, I do understand your work goes a lot deeper than what we're able to discuss today on a short call. But again, I do look forward to hearing more about Napier's success. Thanks again.
Thank you, Manesh.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.